Hello, my name is Agent Nikki Kendo with Horrific Encounters. I'm here to talk to you today about Subject 002, the deranged surgeon of slaughter, Herman Carter, aka The Doctor. Let's start the debriefing. Showing exceptional aptitude in psychology, Herman was hand-picked for a special training in an advanced neuroscience program located in a secret black site facility in Illinois known as Larry's Memorial Institute, which was really a front for the CIA. This is where Herman met Dr. Otto Stamper, where under his guidance, Herman began to use strange and ever-increasingly vicious methods to extract information from prisoners sent to the Institute, which was also a covert prison and re-education center for whoever was the CIA's current nemesis. His liberal use of violent electroshock therapy revealed dramatic results, and several threats to the national security were uncovered. Over the years, Herman became known as the Doctor, and no one ever questioned if he had ever even held a medical certification, or even what happened to the prisoners after they had given up their information. It was only after Larry's Memorial Institute went silent for a week that the true horror was fully uncovered. The personnel, patients, and prisoners were all found dead, with all types of head trauma. All personnel and prisoners' bodies were accounted for, including Dr. Stamper, but no sign of Herman, the Dr. Carter. Now, the Doctor was originally going to be a Chinese man based on, now I apologize if I butcher this pronunciation, Yang Yuzhen. Yang Yuzhen is a highly controversial Chinese clinical psychiatrist who advocated in practice electroconvulsion therapy without anesthesia or muscle relaxants as a cure for alleged gaming and internet addiction in adolescents. This is due to the developers who make Dead by Daylight Behavior Interactive asking their Chinese audience what type of killer they would want in the game. Well, this first idea for the Doctor was scrapped for being too recent and too gruesome to idolize in the game, and the idea was quickly changed to what we have now based on MKUltra experiments of 1953 inside the United States, where the US government tried to make mind control using LSD and various other hallucinogenic drugs. Personally, MKUltra is a part of American history that should be used in horror a lot more, and I think characters like the Doctor here in Dead by Daylight is an interesting look into the horror of what the US government did to his own citizens. His design is ripped right out of the Outlast games, and he's a terrifying looking man. With all the medical equipment on his face and his skin and his arms being fried and flayed with blackened charcoal skin due to the electricity running through his body is truly terrifying. And to know that the stuff on his face was put there by the entity of the realms as punishment is pretty interesting. The Doctor's power, deemed Carter's Spark, is a very interesting ability that fits into his lore and backstory. Using the electricity running through his body, he can cause static blasts and make the survivors in the trials go completely insane. Slowly, the survivors lose their minds, causing lack of motor function, and they get hallucinations of the Mad Doctor himself. Now, when the Doctor first came out in the Spark of Madness DLC, his power was pretty bad. He had two different modes, treatment and punishment mode. Punishment mode was when you could use your weapon and hurt the survivors, while treatment mode was when you could use your static fields and shock therapy abilities. Later on in his power rework, you no longer have to switch modes to use shock therapy and your weapon. His ability to drive the survivors insane using electroshock therapy is a very interesting and cool way to not just show his lore and his ability, but a pretty decent / annoying ability to deal with as survivors. The Doctor brought a map into the realms as well with the Spark of Madness DLC, called the Larry's Memorial Institute, where he once worked. Nestled in the sleepy woods 3 miles south of Michaelstown, Illinois, the Larry Memorial Institute started out life as a hospital, specializing in the rehabilitation of GIs returning from the Korean War. The mansion, built in the late 1800s, and its massive lot were donated by the previous owner to be transformed into a medical facility. As an army hospital,
It always fell under different laws and rules to other hospitals, and in 1967 it effectively became a front for the CIA. Under the stewardship of Otto Stamper, the old army patients were shipped out and a huge fence erected around the property. Around this time, the public were refused access to the patients, and the whole place was shrouded in secrecy. By 1970, the Institute was fully transformed into a CIA black site, with special requirements to develop cutting-edge interrogation techniques, and they employed a wide range of different doctors and specialists to help them. The Institute thrived through the 1970s, growing a staff of hundreds, filling the main hospital and several outbuildings. Documents and evidence about the Institute is scarce, as the government condemned the entire building in 1983, even razing most of the building to the ground, in what seemed to be planned explosive demolition. Even now, the events that led to the closing of the Institute and what happened to the staff and patients is shrouded in controversy and mystery. Snippets of information in heavily redacted documents tell the story of some kind of incident or event, but even the most tenacious of reporters have failed to unearth any real evidence of conspiracy or wrongdoing. You can still see what remains of the shell of the main hospital facility, standing defiant against the ruins that surrounded it on what is still U.S. military land. The hospital is a very interesting look and feel, being the first indoor map in Dead by Daylight. The feel of it being abandoned, yet the lights still flickering on, with the screams of the doctor's victims in the realm echoing down the hallways. Now, before the Realms Beyond updates to the map, it looked boring. Still scary, but boring. So after the updates to the map, it looked 100 times better. In the center of the map is a very awesome looking display of moving and groaning TVs flashing images of the Doctor himself, with various electric chairs where his victims would sit and be forced to see the Doctor's face. The TVs in the center map moan and groan due to the rusty metal holding them up and moving them around, but I also think that it resembles the groans of his broken victim after the Doctor's been done with them. Now, in this segment of a character review, I'd like to talk about the different cosmetics that change the Doctor's look to a different design. There are cosmetics that change the Doctor into different characters, like the Looksee from Crypt TV, and Dead Eddie from Iron Maiden, but I'll most likely only be looking at cosmetics that keep the Doctor the Doctor. Surgeon of Slaughter. There's so much to learn from live human bodies, including your own. The Surgeon of Slaughter is personally my favorite cosmetic outfit for the Doctor. I remember when it first came out, I was so excited for it due to how gruesome and interesting it looked, due to the idea of the Doctor being the patient being tortured under his own care. Plus, his weapon in this set is, I believe, to be the first set with jiggle bones. Resident Infestation. His experiments in pain extended even to himself at times, with one particularly grim foray into insect breeding. This cosmetic set is very cool to me, for the idea alone of the butterflies laying the eggs and hatching inside of him and around him. It's a terrifying thought to live as an incubator and still be able to function and go on with daily tasks of his slaughter. The Transplant. A horrifying combination of body parts, stitched together, electrified, and brought to life. One horror idea that isn't used much anymore is that of Dr. Victor Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster. And this cosmetic idea gave me the idea of what would happen if Dr. Frankenstein made himself the monster. And that right there is a pretty damn good idea. Overall, this cosmetic set is pretty good, and it's the main one I use for the Doctor. And lastly, the Foul Bile, a relentless specimen with acute aggressive response to experimentation. Physical strengths were used on both ankles. The Blighted cosmetics are the best in the game, really depending on the killer, and this is again one of the best I've seen. The ideas that I got with the medical equipment all over him is that the Doctor helped the Blight aka Talbot Grimes, with his own experimentation with the blighted serum. With the pulsating tubes in his stomach and his rotted away / mutated face, with the third eye that grew in above his left eye, is truly terrifying. The Doctor is a very interesting mix of fiction and horrific real-world experiments done on the American citizens done by their own government. Within his sadistic laughter he has while hurting his victims shows that he finds pleasure in one way or another hurting those on his operating table. His power is also an amazing way to show not just his personality, but also shows his past work with the electroshock therapy. In the modern climate of Dead by Daylight, the Doctor is pretty mid, but if you go up against a good Doctor main in the game, it is terrifying as seeing the real guy. I'd like to give Herman the Dr. Carter a high 7.5 out of 10, and that his power rework really saved him in the long run, and his map is such a great addition to the game. I cannot wait to see what's in store for the Doctor in the future. My name is Agent Nicky with Horrific Encounters, and I thank you for watching. Agent Nicky, signing off.